Hello and welcome to our Thursday afternoon edition of Newsbreak on Arirang TV. Filling in for Handan this week, I'm Mark Broom. Our top story this afternoon, this year's East Asia Summit is close to wrapping up in Laos. President Park Geun-hye is expected to use the occasion to again press regional leaders on the need to keep the pressure on North Korea over its nuclear and missile programs. Our Song Ji-son, who's travelling with the President, files this report from Laos.
The final stage of President Park Geun-hye's multilateral diplomacy tour takes place at the East Asia Summit. The summit includes the 10 ASEAN member nations plus the 3 East Asian countries of Korea, China, and Japan, and the US, Russia, India, Australia, and New Zealand. President Park will refresh her call on the international community to implement the UN sanctions on North Korea, which threatened regional peace with yet another missile launch on Monday when the G20 summit was underway in China.
At the East Asia Summit, the best strategic forum in the region that's attended by the leaders of ASEAN, the US, China, Japan, and Russia, President Park will call on the world to send a strong message that North Korea's nuclear program cannot be tolerated. We must continue to cooperate to help Pyongyang make the right choice.
During her stops in Russia for the Eastern Economic Forum and in Hangzhou for the G20 summit, President Park stepped up the pressure on North Korea, announcing measures to beef up trilateral coordination between the US and Japan, and reinforce trilateral communication with the US and China to counter North Korea's increased nuclear and missile provocations. President Park has completed a series of bilateral talks with Russia, China, the US, and Japan on North Korean issue. The leaders will all gather at the East Asia Summit on Thursday to further discuss regional security. Song Ji-son, Arirang News, Vientiane.
The annual Seoul Defense Dialogue has opened for a 2-day run in the South Korean capital. The main topics of conversation are North Korea's nuclear program and the disputes in the South China Sea. Kim Hyun-bin reports.
Seoul's Defense Dialogue 2016 kicked off on Thursday with military leaders from 33 countries and 5 international organizations taking part. Topping the agenda will be regional and international security issues involving North Korea's nuclear program and maritime disputes among the US, China, and Japan. The first plenary session on Thursday focuses on the denuclearization of North Korea and how to enhance international cooperation on the issue. The participants will assess North Korea's growing nuclear threats, UN Security Council resolutions on Pyongyang's nuclear program, and how the framework of the Iranian nuclear deal could be applied to the regime. Also on Thursday, South Korea's Defense Minister Han Min-gu is scheduled to hold talks with the chief of the Organization for the Prohibition of Chemical Weapons to discuss cooperative measures to prevent Pyongyang's possible use of chemical and biological weapons. On Friday, the final day, the plenary session will focus on maritime security cooperation, discussing crisis management on the South China Sea issues. However, Beijing is not taking part in the forum this year as a protest against Seoul's recent decision to deploy the U.S. Advanced Missile Defense System, THAAD, to the peninsula. China argues that THAAD's radar will harm regional security and that it could be used to spy on Beijing's military. Kim Hyun-bin, Arirang News.
Now, the Korean government is pushing the country's leading 3 shipbuilding companies, Hyundai Heavy Industries, Samsung Heavy Industries, and Daewoo Shipbuilding and Marine Engineering, to downsize in a bid to save the financially troubled industry. During a parliamentary hearing that began on Thursday morning, Korea's finance minister explained that the firms were told to downsize their facilities by 20% and their manpower by 30% by 2018. All 3 shipbuilders are under a government-led corporate restructuring drive due to their financial problems, saying that he'll recognize the next 2 years as the last golden time to save the country's economy. Finance Minister Yoo Il-ho said he will work to push forward with the corporate restructuring processes. The 2016 Paralympics have officially opened in Rio. The opening ceremony had all the glitz and glamour you'd expect, but low ticket prices, budget issues and a lack of volunteers are casting a shadow over the celebration of sport. Kwon Jang-ho reports.
The 2016 Paralympics have begun. 18 days after the Olympics closed in Rio, The Maracanã Stadium Wednesday night was once again filled with samba music, colourful dances and elaborate fireworks, as well as some incredible somersaulting stunts by a wheelchair athlete. Over the next 11 days, 4,300 athletes from 159 countries will be competing in 23 Paralympic sports. That includes the 139 competitors from South Korea who've set a target of 12 gold medals and a top 10 finish. There are also 2 athletes representing North Korea, as well as 2 members of the refugee team competing under the Olympic flag. But as with last month's Olympics, empty seats and low ticket sales are again a big concern. The organisers have said a late upsurge in interest is expected to lead to tickets selling out, but with about 1 million of the 2.5 million tickets still available on Monday, that could likely be optimistic. Drastically reduced budgets and a shortage of volunteers threaten to disrupt the events as well. But it's hoped that, much like the Olympics last month, once the Games begin, the focus will be on athletic achievement and not the off-stage drama. Kwon Jang-ho, Arirang News.
Well, that's where we're going to leave it for now. Stay tuned for Business Daily coming up at the top of the hour. Goodbye.